Welcome to, or welcome back to, How to Change the World, the podcast that equips changemakers with the lessons, tools, and inspiration to drive meaningful impact. I'm Veronica Aguilar, your guest host for this very special episode of How to Change the World, because I have the honor today of interviewing Catherine Alonzo, your regular podcast host, and also the author of the brand new book, The Changemaker's Toolkit. Catherine, so excited to be here with you today.
I was so excited to be here. You nailed that intro. It's kind of weird to hear someone else say it, but really cool to hear you say it.
Well, I am so honored to be here. And y'all, Catherine's new book is written for the frustrated changemaker, right? And makes the case that the change is not only possible in today's crazy world, but that now actually presents an unprecedented opportunity for us to drive change. And I'm especially honored to be interviewing Catherine because I first met her, Catherine, I don't know if you remember this, during the Athena Award process in 2020. Seems like yesterday.
It does, doesn't it?
Remember, I was a finalist, and Catherine, you were a recent recipient. So I reached out to you to better understand, the kind of leadership the award celebrates. As you know, since my work really does focus on supporting and empowering women, right? And that coffee chat, I vividly remember it, was so much more than logistics and about the award. Catherine, you really shared what leadership means to you. Responsibility, generosity, curiosity. You were so grounded and thoughtful. And that meeting really reminded me why this work matters. Women lead with courage and heart. And so that is why I'm just so excited to connect with you today, celebrate you in this amazing book, and welcome Catherine to the pod that, of course, she is very, very well known on. So, Catherine, welcome.
Thank you. And thank you so much for that kind, warm introduction. And when I knew that I wanted to be a guest on my own podcast, and I was thinking, who could I invite to guest host with me and for me? You were the first and only choice because because of that coffee. I think we kind of connected over what it is to really, really have this drive to want to make a difference in the world and feel like there are so many things that get in the way, personal, professional, global, micro, all the rest of it. And you are such an incredible change maker with your work for Teach for America and Young and Empowered Women. And you're truly shaping the fabric of our community. So it is an honor to be talking to you today.
Thank you so much. And congratulations again. We are all rooting for you. So, Catherine, your book, it really does focus, like I said, on how to make change in the world that we're living in today, right? What led you to write it and why now?
Yeah, so I think this sense that the world is going to hell in a handbasket and that we're all doomed is so palpable. I feel like it comes up in every conversation I have. It's pretty common now if I run into a friend or a colleague, somebody I know professionally out in the community, and I say, hey, how's it going? It's a really common answer like, well, the world's falling apart. And that feels newish to me. It's definitely, it's certainly not brand new, but the last few years have really been characterized by the sense that everything's falling apart and that people feel really powerless to do anything about it. And it shows up not only in our conversations, but in our social media, in our traditional media. It kind of threads through all of our work and communities. It's just so, it's like this tone that's there all the time. And at the same time, the company that I'm the CEO of, Javelina, we have the absolute honor to work with incredible change makers every single day. And the change makers in our community, like you, Veronica, so Young and Empowered Women, the nonprofit that you started, you have truly not only shaped and impacted individual lives of professional women in our community, but the community you've created truly makes an impact. It changes people's day-to-day experience of work and leadership, but it also advances people's careers and what they know about themselves and what they want for themselves. And so these two things just weren't matching for me, right? There was this sort of palpable, everything is terrible, and this up close and personal view I have in that the incredible work, effective work that is happening. And so I started to wonder why the disconnect. And I was looking into that and starting to explore that when a friend of mine asked me, a friend and colleague asked me to keynote at a conference for her association. And I asked her, what is it that your change makers are experiencing? What do they most need to hear? And it was all the same stuff we've been talking about. It was they are burned out, they are feeling overwhelmed, they are nostalgic for a past that isn't available, they feel lost. And so with the research that I'd been doing and the observations I'd been making, I put together a keynote that spoke to that moment and asked the question I answered was, how is it that I can make change in today's circumstances? And then that turned into a couple of other keynote opportunities. And then that turned into the book. And when I wrote the lion's share of it, Veronica, about this time last year, like January last year. So it was around the time, or it was the time that Trump was inaugurated for the second time. And everything felt just so broken and hopeless. And I had so much fear and heavy. And I remember thinking, I turned in the first draft on the 31st of January last year. And I remember thinking, it's a shame this isn't coming out now, because by the time this comes out, this feeling of hopelessness won't be as palpable. Careful what you wish for, because here we are a little over a year later, and it actually feels more timely than ever.
Yes. And Catherine, where did that, like your own motivation to drive change, come from for yourself?
Yeah, so that is something that has taken me quite a while to figure out. I kind of came out of the womb wanting to make a difference. That's probably not quite true, but it's always been there. Always this feeling that I have wanted to make a difference in the world. And it's funny that in the intro you mentioned Athena, because actually it was Athena process was a real turning point for me. So I went through it I went through the process in 2016, 10 years ago. Time flies. It's crazy. And for anybody that doesn't know, the Athena Award is it's an award hosted, if that's the right word, by the Chamber of Commerce in Phoenix, the Grace Phoenix Chamber of Commerce. And it recognizes female leadership. So there's different categories and you go through this process. And I was in the young professional category, and you have to do a written application. Then there's an interview. And
it is a process.
It's a process. It really is. And the advice I had received was that you will be most successful if you really dig inward and sort of share.
Yes.
And so I did that. And you have to, in the written application and in the interview, you have to really answer questions about why do you do this and where are you going? And so I had to kind of think about that for myself. And so what I came to realize is that for me, all of this came from something that happened in my childhood when I was really, really young. And this thing that happened has shaped not only who I am as a person, but everything I think I care about, and certainly my career. And the crazy thing about that is I actually don't remember it happening. And that is that when I was 6 months old, my older brother, Rory, died in an accident 3 weeks before his 3rd birthday. And I don't remember Rory, and I don't know what it's like to lose a child. Rory and I shared 163 days on the earth together. And of course, I don't remember any of them. But I do know what it is like to grow up in a family with a front row seat to what that kind of grieving does to people. And how it changes not only how you see yourself, but also how you see the world, and what you think the world will and won't offer you. And at the same time, me and my younger brother had everything you would want any kid to have. We had fun vacations and fun holidays and inside jokes and, this loving family structure. And really, like I said, anything you'd want any kid to have. And in the aftermath of Rory's death, I think our parents taught me and my younger brother 2 really important things. One is that life does not come with a safety blanket. Tomorrow is not promised. As they said to us, bad things happen to good people. And then the second thing they taught us is that given that reality, the only thing any of us really have is the power to make a difference in the lives of other people. And that's a power that you must choose to use. And I think that just instilled in me this drive. And for me, it's physical. It's like
Yeah.
it's a calling. It's a calling. It's a pull. Like I don't know that it was a choice. I think the bit that was the choice was how that manifested. I think there are a million ways you can impact the world around you. And it took me a long time and a lot of failed career attempts to figure out that my way was going to be really through storytelling and helping change makers tell their stories was maybe the first chapter of my career. And then this second overlapping chapter is supporting the change makers that are making the change.
I love that. And I think too, it's so important, especially you talked a little bit about the time that we're in right now, right? Where despair feels very widespread, right? You mentioned social media, the headlines, they're relentlessly grim right now, right? What do you feel gives you hope that change is possible for those change makers that we want to make the change?
Yeah. So I mentioned, I knew it was possible because I was seeing it happen.
Right.
And so I was like, these changes don't get attention. They don't get news coverage. They know people just, I don't know, like people don't know maybe.
Mhm.
Maybe it's much easier to understand something bad that's happening than to understand something
Mm.
good that's happening. I think a lot of the good work that happens in our communities is about prevention, and it's famously hard to celebrate something not happening. Maybe that's a part of it. But I started to look into when I was developing the book, okay, so what is it about our current moment that makes us feel so hopeless? And I realized that it came down to three things. One is the big problems we face, and we face some really big challenges, but big challenges aren't new. So what is it about the current set of challenges that is, so overwhelming? And I think it's probably because a lot of our current challenges feel existential. They're related to our ability to continue to live in a way that we value. So, climate change, threats to democracy, questions about how we elect governments, how we run governments, housing crises. These things are related to pretty fundamental things that shape our day-to-day living. And so when we think about our kids, we want them to have what we've had. We want them to have a better version of what we've had, and we think that maybe they'll have a worse version. So that's number one. Number two is falling trust in traditional institutions. So traditional institutions, government, the military, big business, small business, the media, these institutions that are supposed, quote unquote, supposed to be responsible for responding to these problems. Research shows that public trust in those institutions is the lowest it's ever been. And so not only are we facing these big challenges, but the people whose job it is to respond to those big challenges, we don't trust to do so. And then the third thing that wraps around the first two, I think, like a big bow, is this rapid rate of change that we're living in.
Mm.
That because of not just technology, but certainly technology is a driver, but our technological, our social, and our cultural change is moving at a faster pace than it ever has before. And it's only getting faster because the pace of change gets faster and faster. So these three things, which in the book I call the trifecta of change, really contribute to make us feel like everything is hopeless. But the argument I make in the book is that when reconsidered, these three factors actually create unprecedented opportunity to drive change. So big critical challenges become big problems to fix that attract energy, time, and resources. A record low trust in institutions creates opportunity for new players, new organizations, new leaders, new individuals, new collaborations. And then the rapid pace of change, while unsettling, and believe me, I live that too, creates an ease of innovation and collaboration and testing and improvement that is faster and easier than it and cheaper than it ever has been before. So that's why so much incredible change is happening. And there's this huge opportunity for change makers to figure out what they want their impact to be and to go for it.
I feel like I've heard that so many times, right? Where challenges brings opportunities. We hear this at our companies and our organizations and the nonprofits we volunteer for, but this seems like it's at a systems level, right? The challenges
Mm-hmm.
and new opportunities that we can make for all those change makers to do it together. And you mentioned in the book, which I was ferociously taking notes while I was reading it, by the way, but you introduce 4 tools that you mentioned that every change maker needs, right? Can you walk us through those tools so we can learn more
Yeah,
about them?
absolutely. So yeah, the Changemakers Toolkit, there are in fact tools in the toolkit, and there are 4 of them. So the first one is vision.
Okay.
Where are you going? And I don't mean a sort of vision statement, which is a mainstay of the social impact sector. And there's nothing wrong with a vision statement. We need
We
them.
love a good mission
Yeah,
statement.
we love a good mission statement.
Yes.
Mission statements are by design supposed to be far into the distant future and utopian. They're a utopian statement on a horizon that keeps moving. A vision story is really a long form, descriptive vision story of the world that you are creating in the mid range. So 5 to 10 years. What does the world look like in 5 to 10 years because of your work? Not just the world around you, but within your organization. So that's tool number 1. Tool number 2 is a set of systems that help you take consistent, focused action over time. No, having a vision is not enough. You need to take action toward it. But action alone that relies on vision, willpower, passion burns out. When you create systems that drive that action, it turns into more of a flywheel that doesn't rely on you, but relies on a team or someone like you to be able to step in when you can't. Even when you have vision and systems, though, things go wrong. And the third tool, and I think this is so critical, is knowing as a leader what your core values are. And here I'm not talking about organizational core values, although that's important too. I'm talking about knowing on a deep level, what are my core values as a person? How are they defined? What do they look like in action? And how do I use those to navigate challenges on a daily basis? And then the last one, and this is really critical, it's probably the glue that holds it all together, is conviction. How are you fostering belief in your own ability to drive change? But I think the thing that's really important to say, Veronica, is that these tools are not one and done. They're not things on a to-do list. This is a framework that drives your change-making activity for the rest of your career. And it can be used for anything, literally anything that you want to change. So that can be something on a personal level. It can be a big professional project, a small professional project. When I wrote the book, I was not imagining that it would beautifully sit on somebody's shelf, although I do personally think it is beautiful.
It is.
I am
Look
very
at that.
this color gradation. I love it. But I was imagining, sitting on somebody's desk, like dog-eared and underlined and pages folded down.
You saw what
like
you imagined
manual.
what I was doing.
Yes. This like manual and really kind of a companion piece for change makers.
How did you come to learn about these tools? Like, were they through experience? Did you practice them with repetition and say, this is the formula? How did you develop these?
Yeah, I think, yes, all of the above. So a lot of it was from building my own business. And when
you learn a lot when you build your own business, right?
Oh my God. You fail a lot. You fail a lot, which means you learn a lot. I think the culmination of these tools and the inclusion of them in the book, I've never thought about it this way, but represents a ton of failure in my own business. Just every time something was going wrong and I would go on a mission to try and figure out why, it would lead me to a solution that is represented in this book. And then of course there's a ton of personal experiences. So one of my core values is learning. So when I go through something, I always reflect and think, what did I take from this? And usually, no matter how challenging something is, once I can get to the lesson, I feel better.
Yeah.
And there was one, and this is the stories in the book. So in 2016, same year as the Athena, it was an important year for me.
Big year.
My husband Ruben and I went to Taiwan. We decided to cycle the east coast of Taiwan, which is very out of character for us, but it was a harebrained idea I came up with and Ruben went along with. And we were cycling 250 miles from Hualien in the north to Taitung in the south. And we did it over 5 days. And loosely speaking, the first 3 days was lots of uphill. So just uphill climb after uphill climb. And then there was like a really long flat bit and then one big hill and then 2 days of flat.
Okay.
So on the third day, we kind of got to the top of the hill. We'd done all the hilly pieces and then we went through this really long tunnel. And you emerged from this tunnel and there was this incredible vista on the other side, just kind of rocky coastline and the water stretching out in front of us. And it was raining a little bit, so it was misty.
Wow.
And there's this, on the other side of this tunnel, there's this huge hill down. So we're going down this massive hill and I'm looking out on this just incredible view. Ruben was ahead of me, so there was nobody around. It was raining a little bit and the wind was flying in my face. And I just felt so incredibly free. I'm flying down this hill. Like flying.
I'm like imagining you right now.
Yes, yeah. Just like hurtling down this hill. The speedometer says 40 miles an hour. And I just think to myself, this is one of the best moments of my life. I was filled with gratitude and so grateful to be having this experience. And, you know, I will never know if I hit a rock or a divot in the road. But the next thing I know, I come over the handlebars and the asphalt is sort of coming up to meet me. Catherine. And I was very lucky. We got an ambulance. Ruben figured out how to call an ambulance in Taiwan. 119 is the emergency number there.
Good to know.
Need it. And an ambulance came and soul crushingly took us up the hill, and to do the journey we just did kind of in reverse. And then, you know, I got tetanus shot and some stitches. And the next day, it started the journey with my face completely bandaged. And, you know, we finished the journey and we went on and we did the rest of our trip. And it wasn't until I got home and people were like, you crazy? Why didn't you come home? I can't believe you kept cycling for 2 days. I can't believe you finished the trip. You know,
did that even cross your mind to come home?
It didn't cross my mind. We didn't discuss it. And what's with hindsight, the thing that I learned is that the reason it never crossed our mind is because with this very clear vision, which was we make it to Hualien or to Taitung, sorry. And then after Taitung, we had this whole plan. We went to Hong Kong for New Year because this was at Christmas. And, you know, we had this very clear vision so that when something went horribly wrong, which it did, the question wasn't whether we continue. The question was, how do we continue? And so that we changed things. We changed the route. We changed our activities. We did make differences. I certainly didn't. It's lucky that we were finished with the hills. We changed our route to avoid hills, and we changed where we stayed, et cetera, et cetera. So that story's in the book. And so when you ask kind of where all of this came from, so much of it was personal experience and realizing, okay, when you have a vision, you will be propelled over hurdles. And when you don't, the first hurdle you come to will be a stopping point. And it's so applicable for social change.
Absolutely. And it sounds like you said you made little adjustments even along the way. So you're able to complete it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yes.
With your personal experience, you know, do you find when you think about effective change, right? Is there something that you have found incredibly like inspiring? It could be like your own personal experience, things that you've seen in the community, really trying to bring that hope back, right, to what we can do. And while using all these tools that you mentioned to really drive that change. Yeah. Is there a specific example of change that you've seen or that you've experienced?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's one of the absolute honors of my work is that I get to see these every day. But a story I tell a lot is of a client of ours, we are facing one of the most severe housing crises that we have for generations.
Mm-hmm.
And a client of ours that is based in Maricopa County
Mm-hmm.
is a part of that and wanted to help solve that problem. And they're called Home Inc. And they work with agencies, nonprofit agencies and housing agencies to source housing units so that somebody who is transitioning out of homelessness can live in that housing unit. And they also administer the housing voucher programs that supports that. And what they identified is there are just simply not enough people who already run and operate and own property who are willing to participate in housing voucher programs for a ton of different reasons. And so they launched, in partnership with Maricopa County, they launched Threshold in 2022. And Threshold is a network that supports and provides resources for property owners and operators so that they can participate in these housing voucher programs and provide a house for somebody who really needs it, while also having profitable, well-maintained properties.
Wow.
And
Okay.
their results have been nothing short of extraordinary. In less than 1 year, they recruited 447 property owners and operators to participate who would not otherwise have. This
In
is
1
just in
year.
Maricopa County, less than 1 year.
Wow.
They which generated 980 units, which meant that there were 1,250 people with a set of keys to call their own who would not otherwise have had.
Mm,
And so that doesn't just shape lives, that changes entire communities.
absolutely.
And Threshold continues. And so that is a story I love to tell because it shows what is possible even in today's circumstances.
Yes.
And as I would argue, not despite, but because of today's circumstances.
Mm-hmm.
But also it goes to show what the Home Inc. team did when they launched Threshold, and I love this, is they focused on one very specific angle of the problem. They did not set out to solve the entirety of homelessness. It's housing and homelessness is complex. There's a lot that goes into it. It's been a problem that has been taken decades to create. It will not get fixed all in one go. And where they really focused is where they are strong and able to focus, which is property owners and operators that can participate in housing voucher programs. And by doing that and by having a vision for the world as it could be, they've created tremendous change.
Wow. And I'm going through in my head right now the 4 tools, and I'm wondering how they were able to live this out with conviction and core values. And I'm sure their flywheel is moving, right? Like rapid, to be able to make that amount of change so quickly. So that is an amazing example. And and we need to hear these specific examples, right, Catherine? At the same time, we hear these examples, we could see it on social media, we could hear it from you, and things still just can feel very heavy and overwhelming, right? So, what would you say to someone who may be listening that is still just feeling that way?
Yeah, I completely get it. And I think it's okay to feel that way. And
Yeah.
actually, one of my fear might be a strong word, but one of the things that I'm aware of in writing the book and also giving a keynote is I never want it to come across as, oh, don't worry, it's all going to be fine. Because I don't feel that way. I think the problems we face are really, really critical. And I completely get the heaviness of the world right now. And at the same time, there's something that I experienced when I first moved to Arizona that I'll never forget. So I came to Arizona from the UK to study my master's degree at ASU.
Love it.
And
Go Devils.
Yeah, go Devils, exactly. And when I first came here, President Michael Crow came to speak to my class, and he said something to us that I have never forgotten. And he said that we are all standing on the shoulders of giants, and that we get to carry the ball forward 5 yards before we pass it on to the people that come after us. And he invited us to think about, what are our 5 yards? And so I think when you're feeling overwhelmed about the state of the world and the problems we face, the thing to ask yourself is not, how do I solve everything? But what are my 5 yards and how am I moving the ball forward right now? And that changes with your season of life. It changes with what's going on in the world. It changes with how your week's going. But to always come back to, what are my 5 yards? How am I moving it forward right now? And never forget about the things that you are already doing. We tend to take for granted all of those things and always berate ourselves for not doing more.
Yes.
But
We don't give ourselves enough grace.
Yeah.
We really don't.
All the things that you are already doing to shape the world in accordance with your 5 yards. You know, you're providing support for your coworkers, you're looking after your family, you recycle, you try to not take half an hour showers, you know, like all these things you already do. Take stock of those things and probably high five yourself for those things first.
I love that. And Catherine, I'm imagining and hoping that you are high-fiving yourself for writing this book, because not everyone does it, right? It is not something easy to do. So I'd love to ask you a little bit about like that process as someone who hasn't done it before. How long did it take you to write this book?
Yeah, so this is one of the most common questions I get, and I figured out there's 3 answers to it.
Okay.
So one answer is 2 years.
Okay.
So it's basically 2 years ago that I sat down to write this book. The second answer is 4 years, because I started, I actually mostly finished a whole other book, and I got to the end of writing that book and realized I'd written the wrong book. The book that I had written was not the one that my audience needed. And so then I wrote this one, and there's a lot of that first book in this one. It was really, it was a book all about core values, and I sort of widened it.
Yep.
And then the third answer is probably 15 years, which is the age of Javelina, you know, and this book does represent 15 plus years of lessons from working in social change.
Yep. And how did you carve out that time, all three answers, and momentum to like keep writing once you started?
So I read somewhere that writing is math. Writing is just writing a certain number of words a week. And you need to figure out roughly how many words you want to write. So my goal was 60,000 words. The book is shyer than that, but in your first draft, you want it to be bulkier so you can edit. So I was shooting for 60,000 words. You give yourself a deadline. You divide by the number of days you have, and that is your daily or your weekly writing goal. And then you have to stick to that. And so I'm fairly intrinsically motivated, but I do better with external motivation. So I recruited one of my best friends in the world and my executive assistant, Ruth. And I said to Ruth, okay, I'm going to send you my words each week. And this is my goal. This is the number of words. And it was 4,000, which is a lot.
4,000 each week? Okay.
It's a lot. And I was like, it's 4,000 words a week. And I'm going to send them to you. And if I don't, I'm allowed to miss twice. But if I miss a third time, I have to sing in our staff meeting, and you get to choose the song.
I love that. Did this happen,
Veronica,
Catherine?
No, there was no way on this earth that I was singing in front of my coworkers. I love to sing, but nobody loves to listen to me sing. So it worked. And there were Sundays where I dragged because Sunday was my deadline. There were Sundays where I dragged myself off the couch because I was thinking, I am not singing in the staff meeting this week. And so I think if you have a similar goal, know yourself, figure out who you are, and then set up a structure that's going to motivate you.
I love that. And the motivation for you was, I am not singing.
That is not happening. And it didn't. I'll use that again with if there's a next book, I'll use that again because it worked for me.
I love that. Okay, Catherine. So here are some speed round questions for you. Are you ready? Okay. We will make you sing at the end, I promise. Okay. So what's a great book that has informed your change making?
So I want to say first that I ask these questions at the end of every podcast episode. And
do you always think the answer when you're are you ready to go? Do you have
never.
them?
I've never thought about it myself. So when I was prepping, I was like, oh, wait, I have to do the speed round. These are hard questions, and you've been on the podcast. So I still remember what you said. And I still remember what you said in answer to this great book. So my great book that has inspired my change making is a book called Traction. And for
Mm.
anybody familiar with EOS, Entrepreneurial Operating System, which is it's kind of a methodology for how to run a small business.
Okay.
Traction is the first book that introduces the operating system. And I read Traction when I was maybe 2 years into owning a business, and it changed everything. And it's when I realized that the business was running me rather than me running the business. And it took me years to implement the lessons from the book. I was still doing that, but now we do it company wide. And it truly was, I think it not only it changed the business, but it changed me because it made me realize I'm capable of more than I thought I was.
Oh, I love that. And Catherine, who's one change maker that inspires you?
This one is easy. And this one I do think every single time is my mom. So my mom, I think one of the big reasons that I always wanted to change the world was her. Not only because she raised me with this belief that I needed to make a difference in the lives of other people, but because she modeled it. One of my earliest memories is her going door to door to collect money for a local charity. And if anyone's ever done that, it's pretty soul destroying. People are really mean to people asking for money on their door. And she would come home in tears, but she still did it. She volunteered with the Good Samaritans in the UK. She was always volunteering her time, talents, and resources for something at our church. And so I just, and even on an individual basis, she just gives willingly of herself to her friends, her network. She was a teacher. She always gave so willingly and in abundance to her students. And everything I have learned about who I want to be, I learned from her.
Oh, that's beautiful. I love that. What's a daily habit that keeps you grounded?
Singing in the shower. So I have.
So you do love singing.
Oh,
Catherine.
I love it. I love it. But it's a solo experience. I can't match pitch. Someone recently told me I'm an alto. They were like, "You're not a bad singer. You're just an alto." And I said, "Well, I don't know what that means, but thank you. I'll take care." And I have a shower radio, and I have a playlist that's songs I love to belt out. And every morning I just love it. It brings me joy just to feel my feet on the ground and my lungs filling the air. It's this moment of fun and lightness, no matter what the day is going to bring.
I love that. Do you feel like other people can hear you in the household?
Yeah, Ruben definitely can. But he doesn't care. And if people are staying, if we have guests, then I sing quietly. But if you're staying in my house, I'm probably comfortable enough to sing around you.
That makes sense. I love that.
That might be the litmus test. You can only stay in my house if it doesn't change my morning singing habit.
Yep. If you had to describe change making in one word, what would it be?
Believing.
And how can listeners best connect with you, Catherine?
Well, they can keep listening to this podcast.
Absolutely.
Although we might have to switch this up. You are so good at this. I think maybe you should take over. I'm like, Veronica's better at this than I am.
Oh, stop. I love it. No, thank you. Coming from you, that means a lot. Thank you.
So they can continue to listen to this podcast, How to Change the World, wherever you get podcasts. LinkedIn is the best place. I'm prolific on LinkedIn. I can always be emailed, Catherine@javelina.co. And then, of course, buy the book, which is out now. And you can get it anywhere you buy books.
The audience, I'm sure, is so excited to be able to engage with you even more and in different ways besides this podcast. Catherine, this has been such a meaningful conversation. Even though I have known you as a friend and a colleague and a mentor of mine, even after this conversation, I feel like I continue to learn more about you. So just thank you. And hearing not just what you've accomplished, but how you think about leadership, the core values, who you lift, how you serve, the responsibility that you carry. It's been just really, really inspiring. And it's a really powerful reminder, I hope, to all of us that leadership really isn't about titles. It's not about awards. It's about impact. It's about intention. And it's about not only you being a change maker, but how we can create other change makers as well to make that change. So I'm so grateful for your time and your wisdom and the example that you continue to set for so many others. And to everyone who's joined us, thank you so much for being a part of this conversation. I know you enjoyed it just as much as I did, and for the work that you all continue to do in your spheres of influence. So Keep leading boldly and lifting others along the way. Catherine, thank you again, and congratulations on the book.
Veronica, thank you so incredibly much for spending time with us today. And for those listening, until next time, I hope you have a great one.